Well, hello. This is a big day. We'll get to it in a little bit, but welcome everybody. Let's see, looks like we got some people trickling in, but my name is Eric and doing a special afternoon edition of the our podcast slash Shiny Developer Series live stream. Take your pick. What do you want to call it today? Because it's actually not going to be mainly focused on R itself. It's going to be focused on my OBS setup. So it's going to be a doozy. Just sending a quick note to Jacob that I'm live here. We'll be getting some viewers here shortly. Right now I'm just checking out the random bits here, making sure things are working as expected. Oh, we got this. Oh yay! We got our raid here. Welcome viewers. First of all, Jacob Cedar Prince, excellent job. 4 hours straight. That's not easy, buddy. But what I'm most excited about is I am so thrilled that we have met already the goal of today's stream, this all 24-hour event. So for those that aren't aware, Cedar Prince took it upon himself to organize this awesome event to benefit a charity called Project Hope. This is going to be helping with the vaccine response for COVID and other health disasters that happen around the world. And I can show you right now. The goal is $100, and we've raised $100 on Jacob's stream. So the hard part's done. So I'm so happy. But we're here to have fun. It's obviously the day after Christmas for many of us that have been celebrating that. So my plan today is to, for the first time in probably about 6 months to a year, kind of go over some tips, tricks, and random knowledge bits that I've learned in streaming with some of my favorite software in this space called OBS Studio, along with some other extensions to make the experience even better for the things I want to show, whether it's code development, just having fun, even showing a little gaming now and then. It's all good fun here. So yeah, this is not my usual time, but I'm glad I'm on my winter break, so great time to do this. But I will say off the bat, you probably will hear my youngest having fun with bricks across from me in the basement. So he might make a cameo here at some point, but you know, that's like when you're on with kids home from school. So let's say hello to our chat. David Jackson, hello. Arbit random user one. I hope that wasn't about me. That was a Brut, but we're here now. And Cedar Prince, again, welcome. Take a rest, relax. You deserve it. Have fun geeking out with the things I'll be talking about, but you deserve some downtime. So okay, let's get into this. And for those that haven't said hi, please say hi in the chat. This is a welcoming group. We always like to have fun. All backgrounds welcome. And also, if you want to get more details on the charity event we're working with today, I don't know what I just mentioned. I'll put a command called charity in the chat. That gives you the link that Cedar Prince Jacob set up for us. So feel free to visit that if you'd like to donate as well. Okay, so what am I here to do for probably the next 2 hours, depending on what chaos ensues across from me? We're going to talk about OBS. OBS, for those aren't aware, is become, in this host's humble opinion, the de facto standard for streaming content of many different types. This isn't just for gaming. This isn't just for software development, but those are the two that I'm most familiar with. People use this for even just streaming their own music from their bands, streaming how do I say this? Like, I've seen some channels where they will show the feeds from like a camera, the station, like at a zoo or at like an animal place, and they'll just show animals chilling out. So yeah, you can use it for all sorts of things. Yes, welcome, Big Pod. This is early for me. This is a part of a special event that a friend of mine from our data science streamer group has organized to help benefit the response to COVID-19 and other health pandemics or health events with charity. So, flash it around one more time. We've already met. Oh, Cedar Prince is right on top of it. So we now have a new stretch goal, folks. We've gone $100 already, but we want 500 now. So you are not, of course, obliged to donate. I know some of you don't have the means to do it, and that's absolutely fine. Just being here, hanging out with us, having fun. That's all that matters to us. So, but certainly if you do have the means, we'd highly recommend. Oh, we just got a new donation from Anonymous. Thank you so much. Wow, that was quick, and I haven't even shown my stuff yet. Oh, that's great. That's great. I have a lot to live up to what Jacob just said. So we're gonna have fun though. So first, I think what I want to maybe revisit a little bit is it's not just about OBS for me. It's about the community around it and also the ecosystem around it. The best things about OBS, in my opinion, are that it is completely open source. Now, if any of you see my streams before, I love open source. My favorite language is an open source data science language called R. I also love many other open source frameworks out there. I am a huge user of the most powerful open source operating system in the world, in my opinion, Linux. And I do all sorts of things with that here at home, and also it's a big part of my day job too. So OBS itself being open source not just fits kind of the principles I have, but it means it's highly extensible. I won't sugarcoat it, there is a bit of a learning curve here, but if you even put in just a little effort with it, it can make you go a long way. And another reason I wanted to do this now is because there's been a lot of movement lately. I would say there was a little controversy about a month ago with other projects that were kind of wrapping OBS but not properly giving credit, or worse yet, kind of, what's the right way to say it? Kind of steal some mind share, steal some assets. And so myself, stealing the name, basically. Yeah, that's put it bluntly. So I wanted to do my part for those that have been using those other platforms, and I'll just say what it is, Streamlabs. You can do everything that Streamlabs does with OBS and a few other nice extensions that both are things you can build yourself, but also things that are freely available that can link to your Twitch account, your YouTube account, and get you practically all the way there that you might have with Streamlabs. Now, I myself am not a Streamlabs user, so I can't really help as much with, okay, you were on Streamlabs, here's exactly what you do with OBS, but I can point you to resources that do tell you that. But I wanted to use the time that we have to share what's going on in my setup in terms of like how I build things. And kind of my philosophy on extending various configurations in OBS and tying it to these other extensions that we'll get to in a little bit. So there's both software related extensions, and I do want to mention that one of my goals for putting a lot of time I've had in this kind of setup is to make it so that when I'm ready to stream, which I don't have a lot of time for, I don't want to spend so much time getting things set up manually. I want to use automation so that I can just sit in this chair, hit maybe one or two buttons at the most, and have everything just magically ready to go. So that I don't have to waste my mind share on all that setup stuff. I can just get down to whatever I want to talk about. I'm not all the way there yet, but I'm pretty darn close. So, we'll talk about that. So that's why I'm saying it's not just the hardware, it's also software as well. So actually, I'm gonna show you. I forgot to charge my other phone, but I'm gonna show you real quick my other setup here. I have to boot it up here. I'm actually going to show you something that works on the phone here. Let me reload it. So you can see kind of what my setup looks like behind the scenes here. This didn't work as well last time I did it, but I think it'll work better now. Just have to set this up a bit. No audio. Alright. Alright, let's see if this works this time. And I see some muting there. There we go. Alright. Let me hit my magical button here. And of course it is choppy today for some reason, but in front of me there, not everybody has the means to get one of these, but the idea is having some kind of device or a set of keyboard shortcuts to automate certain events in your OBS setup. And obviously that's way too choppy, we'll get away from it now, but that's called a Stream Deck. But there are other things like this, and some people are even building their own. So that's another option as well. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Oh, Big Pod. This is why another reason I love streaming is that I have not just, you know, obviously everybody coming in has great advice, and it turns out I somehow turned off my Wi-Fi for some reason on the phone. So now that should look a lot better. Let's try that again. Oh, I thought it would. Oh yeah, it's okay, it's a little better. Yep. So there's the Stream Deck here. Yeah, now we're much better. Good eyes. Good eyes, Big Pod. Oh, community time. Monica has given me a new sub. Oh, that is terrific. Thank you, thank you. So Monica goes by community time, is one of my best Linux streaming friends and fellow gamer of all fun games. Oh, from the car. Be safe driving. I know how it feels, but be safe driving. I've done that quite a bit too. But thank you so much. That's very kind of you. So yes, what I was mentioning is hardware can make your life easier. It's not a must, and it's not required, like I should say, but it's made my life easier. So whether it's a Stream Deck or something like it, that can help you with certain things you have for switching scenes, activating certain events in your setup. It's really cool. And Big Pod's getting to one of the services I'll mention in just a bit that literally just powered that webcam you saw there, or I should say that phone camera you saw there, which I'm going to charge up in case I reboot that later. Okay. All right, let's get to business, shall we? So I'm going to switch to my chat, and that's probably a little scary to look at right now. We're going to warm our way up to that in a little bit. Let me move that out of here for now. I'm going to start with some link sharing. I always like to set the foundation on kind of what I'm using in this setup. OBS is, like I said, open source, freely available, and it is across all the major operating systems, the big three, I'll say. Windows and Mac, you're welcome to use it there. This is where my bias is going to come in a little bit. I think OBS is the best fit for Linux. There are lots of things that have been in the Linux version that have been more native, so to speak, than on the other operating systems, but the other reason is that my good friend from the Linux community, Martin Wimpress, goes by Wimpy, and author of Ubuntu Mate, maintainer of that, and all sorts of cool tricks and gadgets and software. He has created basically a plug-and-play installation of OBS Studio via something called Snap Packages in Linux, which is as close as you might get to like an executable or a DMG installer in Mac or an exe in Windows, that comes pre-baked with some excellent plugins and just gets you set up really quickly with OBS on Linux. So I am using that right now as I speak. So again, you're not required to use OBS on Linux. I think it's a great fit for it, and it works on my setup extremely well. So that's what we're seeing here. So that'll be the first link we put in the chat, is to Martin's OBS for Linux. There we go. Okay, the snap package, I should say. So that's the foundational piece, and instead of me just talking about it, we're going to get really geeky here or something for a second. So because I'm on Linux, we're going to have fun with some terminal stuff here. Now I got to figure out where it is. So we are actually going to resize this a little bit. I can, thanks to the magic of snap packages, have not one but two instances of OBS set run at the same time. Now if it breaks, who knows? Here we go. And watch what's about to happen. First I have like, another thing I'll mention is my third monitor that is actually not a real monitor. Look at that, that's me. Let me resize this a little bit. Okay. There's a lot of magic going on behind the scenes of what you're looking at here. I just gotta get my mouse over here. Okay. Sorry, I'm resizing windows left and right. Well, I'm not the only one that's done this. See here, Prince. I'm learning from the aforementioned Martin Wimpress here, who taught me. I always call him the Jedi Master of Linux streaming. But but now, this is the cool part here, is you see myself on two cameras, right? Or two video captures of my rather maybe handsome face, who knows, on the upper right, and in the center here in this upper OBS. There's a lot of magic behind this part that actually Martin figured out for me in one of his live streams a couple months ago that made this part of the tutorial possible. And the last time I did this, I had to have a separate camera set up on my host machine, and so this like demo instance of OBS you're seeing here was using an inferior camera to the one I have now, but now it's the exact same feed. It's pretty gnarly, I must say. So we're gonna probably do little things with this, and we're gonna kind of show how I build things, some of the newer things I started building recently, some of the new plugins I've been looking at, and kind of the general philosophy of like what's the way you can get to like a minimal awesome stream setup and where you can take it up like 100 notches or 1,000 notches almost, depending on how powerful you want to get with it. So let's catch up on the chat here. Yes, Big Pod, OBS is extremely powerful. Frankly, I use it for on-demand content. Like even if I'm not live streaming, I use it to record stuff as well. And so that's been a big help for me too. Yeah, you can use it for about anything. I've heard of people use it for podcasting. You know, they don't require to do video, they'll just fire it up anyway because they got it all set up there. So mass minimum awesome stream setup. You're darn right it is. Yep. So okay, where do we begin? Something I did cover a little bit the last time I did it, but I think it's a very powerful technique, is the concept of how you organize your scenes. What you may see here in the upper left here is I have what I'll call categories of scenes. And one nice thing you can do in OBS is that when you make a scene, it doesn't even have to be a real thing. It can just be a text label. So what I did is I made text labels called live stream scenes, blocks, and audio, just as a way to break it up visually so that I know where things are. I think that's a great tip, is that once you start getting into this, you can get into a bit of a rabbit hole in terms of how many scenes you have. And if I'm looking at my real OBS setup, when I say real, I mean the one I'm streaming on right now, I think I have over 150 scenes. That's legit, folks. That's legit. So I've gone completely in the rabbit hole for it, but you don't have to. You can just do as minimal as you like, depending on what you want to show, what's your key message. But the organization of it is where you start building and building and building. Because my kid is playing with Legos right across from me, I have the concept of Legos in mind as I talk about this. Because you are nesting, if you will, you can nest different hierarchies of scenes here. So if we take a look at like what you're seeing now, this camera scene in this OBS setup right now, we have sources, and you notice these sources here, if you look at their names of it, you notice their names are coming from here. This is the most powerful technique I learned in OBS kind of in the early stages from both Martin and someone else that works at I forget, Twilio, I believe. I think it's Brent, I believe. Is that you can have scenes within scenes. This is called nesting scenes. That is a massive win for how you can organize things and kind of separate things out so you can mix and match different overall scenes as you see fit. So like in this camera scene, if there was an alert that pops up from Stream Elements, which we'll get to in a little bit, I have that scene already in here. I also have my full camera, which is basically this right here. And it looks the same, right? It looks the same, but as you notice in the full camera, it just has full video with background. That's called a source. But I put this main scene of my camera into this camera scene. Same with the music and microphone, which actually don't do anything in this demo interface, but those are for my audio setup. That's also a really powerful technique, is using scenes for not just your video content, for your text content or image content, but also for your audio content. That can make a big difference in how you can bring in different sources of audio and control them separately. That's a huge, huge technique here. So that's like my first major tip, is use nesting of scenes to your advantage. You'll thank you, future you will thank you later. I have saved my behind a few times with that principle. So you can see here that I try to use like these little prefixes at the beginning of these scenes to not just with the textual labels up here, but have a little visual look to like what category these belong to. I'm using the asterisk to be like my main scenes that I would actually switch to during a stream. And then I have these blocks that I use as kind of like the Lego pieces inside the collection of the scene. So they could be big, they could be small, but they're like the building blocks of everything. And then I also have specific to audio, I label those separately so that I know quickly if it's got A, I know that has something to do with audio. That's a great kind of a great way for me to keep track of things. So that's kind of how I organize things at a high level. And one thing that you won't be able to see as much here, but I cover in the last tutorial that I'll link to in the description when I post the VOD of this, is how you can set up your camera to have, if you have the good fortune of a green screen behind you, to chroma key out that green screen and then put on whatever background you like this. This is basically a photo of our package hex stickers behind me, because nobody wants to see what my real basement looks like. Some of you have seen it. Don't judge it, but it's getting better. But it's a work in progress. Anyway, okay. So what I do want to cover are things I didn't cover last time. Another type of source in OBS that literally is what I'll call the connection to bringing in a lot of online services that interact with your OBS setup is called the browser source. If you're thinking browser is an internet browser, you're basically correct. Now, what that might look like is this with this custom block here, which looks like a whole lot of nothing. But the key is this source here. So here I have a stream elements source. Now, I'm actually not going to show you that right now. I'm just going to walk you through what it's like to bring in one of these browser sources. So in OBS, when we're in the source pane, click the plus sign, and then we select browser. Actually, I do have one I can show you. I'm going to use an existing one here. We did something fun with a timer last time. So let me show the properties of that. This is what it might look like. So the big thing about a browser source is that it is something online. But when I say online, I don't just mean internet online, as in like outside your house and like when you go to like Google or whatever else. This internet can be your local network as well. That's another huge thing that kind of unlocks a lot of possibilities here, is that the concept of a browser source can work just as well with your internal network as well as outside your network. Now here in this example, I'm using actually a fun little JavaScript timer widget made by my friends at the ThinkR organization, who do a lot of consulting for R and Shiny application development. And well, it's time for some shameless plugs. Hold on here. Because I'm so excited about what we just did with one of the members of ThinkR, and of course I can't spell my own website. ShinyDevSeries.com. One of my previous interviews with the extremely talented and very entertaining Colin Fay, who works at ThinkR, author of the Golem package, which I use for Shiny app development as our packages. Because once you go Golem, you never go back. And if you want to know why I say that, you watch the episode. But anyway, Colin and his team built, just as a toy example, this JavaScript timer online, where if we actually go to the real version of this online, just having fun here, it's a timer. Nothing more, nothing less, right? Now this can be kind of cool, because you might want to put this in your OBS setup as like a countdown. Or you might use it in other places. So again, what you do for a browser source is you find that link that service or whoever's running that site gives you for embedding into OBS. And then this is where things get a little tricky sometimes, because the width and height of this will default to something smaller than what you probably want. Now in OBS, we typically have what's called an output resolution or a canvas resolution, which determines, when all of you are watching online, what resolution am I sending that as in terms of like the pixel width and height. And typically what people recommend is to go 1920 by 1080 as in the HD resolution. That's worked well for me. And if you're doing that for your canvas resolution, you probably want to match that in your OBS browser sources. And then you can resize later afterwards. So that'll make your life easier. If they want you to do a custom resolution, they'll probably tell you. But this was just a web page online, so I figured, okay, I'll just match it up to my canvas resolution. So that's what I did with 1920, height 1080p. And I did FPS of 60. That defaults to 30. It depends how smooth you want things to look. If it's like a very sophisticated animation or graphic, you might want the full frames. But again, it's up to you depending on performance and things like that. So I don't usually touch the custom CSS, but there are some browser sources where they'll give you the custom CSS and then they'll ask you to paste it in. I've done that before with a custom chat widget in the past. Then you have some other tweaks you can tweak here, so to speak. When you're not actually viewing this source in your OBS kind of setup, you can actually shut it down, which basically stops it from like pinging that service. And you can also make it so it automatically refreshes the browser source when it becomes active. That might be handy if you want to switch to something else and then you want to switch back, but you want that to start from a clean slate. So in fact, we'll just try that here. Now, you notice you're not seeing anything. Well, I bet I know why. It may be the color of the page. Now this, you're being a little fooled here because I'm using dark mode on here. But if I turn dark mode off, I know it's kind of blinding to the eyes, but this timer defaults to white background, black text. Now let's get dark mode back on. I know it's a little jarring. Okay. So what we would do here is if we know we have that kind of source, here's another little trick you can do. Is you could add as another source a custom background. Now maybe what I'll do here is I'll just say, just give it a name, color source 2, and I'm going to give it a lighter color. Maybe I don't do white. Maybe I'll do some kind of like, I don't know, green. Now we do this. Now you see the timer is still not here because when you add sources in OBS, they always add at the top of the list. So what you want to do is you want to bump it down. Now you see the timer is here. So that's how, if you find you're masking something, always don't hesitate to change the order of things. That can be a huge help. So here I just put the color source way at the bottom. Now my alerts are over here. And when I go back to my camera scene, you see my alerts actually took up the full scene because again, it's at top, but I made it the whole thing. Now what we could do here is we can resize it, right? We can resize it here. Then we can move this anywhere we like, but this did not change the block, if you will. The block scene still looks like this. That's unchanged. See, this is another reason why I do the nested scene stuff. And by the way, Cedar Prince, yeah, enjoy your alert. You deserved it. Have fun. But yeah, anyway, this is why I do the blocking setup, is because I can control what these look like in any other scene that I put it in, and it won't impact the other one. So browser sources are huge for many streaming setups. So getting to know that, you'll go a long way with your setup there. So okay, hydrate time. Now, probably a good time to talk about kind of what services I think go well with OBS to bring these like online things to you, so to speak. So we're kind of going somewhat rapid fire of them, but we'll put links in each of them in the chat as we go along. So the first one, I mentioned it already, is Stream Elements. Stream Elements is going to get you pretty far with replicating a lot of what Streamlabs gives you. Maybe not quite one-to-one, but awfully close. So in Stream Elements, what you often have is a hybrid of things. You can have overlays. Overlays are like these kind of animations that you can bring into your streaming setup. Some are really focused on gaming, some are very utilitarian. They break it up into themes, alerts themselves, or just widgets. So you can choose which one you want, and then you can tweak them the way you see fit. There may be other dedicated platforms that offer themes or widgets that you can purchase or just download and directly import them into Stream Elements, and then you can tweak them later. So Stream Elements has their own gallery. But many of these other online platforms kind of have their own widgets. Like I said, some are not free, but they're priced pretty well, and I think they're worth it if you want to give your stream a little extra polish, depending on what you're looking for. So I've done that with some of these I see here, you see here. In fact, the chat widget that you're looking at right now is one of those examples where somebody made it online. They said, okay, here's a button to literally click to import it into Stream Elements. And then within Stream Elements, you can tweak it to whatever font size, color, sizing, anything you want there. So in fact, some of these are outdated, but basically I have mainly 3 that I use, or 4, that I use in my stream setup. If I go back to my welcome scene, the footer you see below, everything in that scrolling text, that's a browser source from Stream Elements. So we just kind of made that widget.
I can go on it.
My son is going to play with the golf club. So that was from a browser source. That was easy enough. Okay, let's go back to our chat. So the chat's another one. And then there are some that will pop up if certain events happen in my stream, like a new subscriber that Monica was, or a raid, or a follower. Those will just appear, and then you can customize those as you see fit. That was actually from this ranked alerts service that I purchased these alerts from. And then I imported them into Stream Elements, and I just did some little tweaking from there. At some point, he's going to get on here, I'm sure. It's just a matter of time. Okay, so Stream Elements, that's highly recommended. Technically, this is an open source on that side of it, but it is free. There's no cost. It just links to your Twitch or YouTube account. And they seem to play nicely with the OBS project, so I always like those organizations or companies that cooperate with each other well. And so I think Stream Elements is one of those. There is another one that, especially in the Twitch ecosystem, has changed the game for many of us on the Linux side of things. That is Atom. Many of us just discovered this a while back, or recently, I should say. This platform, in fact, I even show what it looks like. It gives you a way to bring automation to your Twitch events tied in with OBS. So this isn't really a browser source per se. This is more of the automation, kind of bringing an extra layer of interactivity to your OBS setup. And it is absolutely amazing on what you can do with it. It's not free. There is a monthly cost to it. But especially for those of us on the Linux side, we haven't seen anything like this before that's been a first-class citizen of this kind of service that is in rapid development, that can tie into OBS directly and have even more customization if you're a power user. So I highly recommend Atom. I need to start putting links into this chat here, as I will forget. That's also cross-platform. It's not just for Linux, it's for Windows and Mac as well. Definitely highly recommended to check that out. The other one, getting back to the browser source story, so to speak, is some of that BigPod mentioned earlier. Video Ninja. This here, this powers all of my remote interviews for the Shiny Developer Series. This is kind of like a WebRTC based service, completely open source, that you can basically have a way for you to connect to remote guests and bring that content in. It's kind of like a hybrid of Zoom and all the other, Jitsi and other online conferencing, but then you can bring that into either OBS or any other kind of broadcasting service you're working on that can bring in online content. And the other secret, not so secret sauce to it, but what makes the magic work, as Big Pod's correctly pointing out, is that it is based on peer-to-peer connection. So this is the same kind of technology that powers things like torrents and other ways of, or other syncing solutions like SyncThing. It lets you connect directly to the guest, and it's brokered by another, server out in the cloud, so to speak. But it means it's very low latency. And I've used it with guests all the way from Australia, mind you. And it looks like them and I are in the same virtual conference room, basically. It really is amazing. And so I cannot recommend Video Ninja enough. It has changed my Shiny Developer Series life after we discovered this, because in the past we used Zoom, or like, what was it? When we did the live webinars, we did like GoToMeeting or whatever. This makes it so that I can tailor this to my setup, and it's just a joy to use. It performs so well, and it even made my phone work that you just saw. So I could even use it on my cell phone to bring that camera feed into OBS to show you my setup. And yes, the other reason we know it's battle tested is for those of you that watched my previous exploits on Martin's Wimpy's World of Gaming channel, know that myself and Monica and Big Pod and others in our Linux streaming community literally used it for connecting all of the 4 of us at a time, even more after we got the hang of it, into one OBS setup that Martin was broadcasting from, where you'd have all 4 of us, our video feeds, like kind of the one you see in the upper right here, and our gaming feeds from our session of Hotshot Racing. And it was really solid. Like, we didn't have, may have had maybe 1 or 2 hiccups ever, but once Martin dialed in the settings for all of us, it was amazing. Nobody has done it like that. So yeah, there have been instances of 4 people from US, UK, and from mainland Europe, maybe 400 millisecond delay max. Like, that's unheard of, and Video Ninja made all that possible. So why am I telling you this in the context of streaming? Well, imagine that you have a stream where you want to maybe pair a program with somebody, or you want to at least maybe talk with them live on Twitch or YouTube, and you want to bring them in, much like how I've done offline with the Shiny Developer Series interviews. Video Ninja can be a browser source in OBS, and you can make that happen. No need for Zoom, no need for Discord, no need for all that. You can just do it all on Video Ninja. So again, highly recommend to check that out if you haven't explored with it before. But yeah, exactly. In fact, that's what I wanted to do, maybe with some downtime later on. Big Pod, is myself and a few of my other R streamer friends want to start building some tie-ins with R and Twitch via bots or other streaming tech. And we wanted to kind of pair program with Video Ninja and maybe VS Code to kind of work on the same code base. At least that's been my idea. And I'm getting close to making the Visual Studio Code setup work, and I think that would be a ton of fun. So again, Video Ninja, highly recommended. So let's go back to OBS for a second, because I do want to talk about another important topic. I can find my... Let's see, where did my demo setup go? Okay, here we are. I want to talk about audio for a second. Now, it's not going to mean as much on this demo setup because you're only hearing me from my live broadcast setup. But one thing I should note is that from a hardware perspective, even a decent headset can get you all the way to where you need. And a lot of people do that, and that's great. All for it. Use what works well for you. But one thing that has helped me in the past is being able to control certain filters on the audio input, i.e. from a microphone, to even make it sound more polished without too much effort. So we're going to talk a little bit about how I pull that off, and I'll even show you how I did it in my main setup. I can drag that window here a little bit. Let's catch up with the chat a second. So BigPod. Oh, actually, I went. Oh, yeah, the other service. Let me I'll use the other service. I'll highlight this a little bit. Sorry, I'm jumping around here, but yeah. So BigPod says over January, I plan on throwing my programming know-how into YouTube chat and make a bot plus other stuff like that. That's awesome, BigPod. Really look forward to seeing that. What did I just do there? That sounded so magical. First of all, Monica, have a great time. We'll see you around online wherever. Enjoy your rest of your day. So, what I just showed you there is another awesome service that has been very helpful for me. It is, I didn't pre-bake it here, but I will call feature.chat. I hope I can log in twice. We'll see if anything breaks. Okay, so feature.chat. Let me put this in our real chat here. What this does is it gives you a way in your Twitch chat to, if somebody asks a question or has an insightful kind of chat message that you want to highlight for showing in your stream, you can simply press a button to highlight it and then have it show up at the bottom of it. This is a really cool tool to kind of bring that interaction of your stream up a notch as well. And again, how does this get brought into OBS? Browser source. So I've told you about 3 awesome services so far that if you bring them in as a browser source, you can just have a lot of dynamic content to what you're showing. So feature.chat, really nice plugin, very solid. I've been using it for a few streams recently. Highly recommended. So glad I remember that before it was too late. Okay, let's go back to OBS here. Back to audio for a second. So whatever mic you're using, whether it's a headset mic, which I'm actually not using right now, I gotta get my fingers straight. I actually have a mic above me called a shotgun mic that I'm using instead. But no matter which one you're using, you can tune the audio to be pretty clean and make it easier for your audience to hear all your great audio voice there. So I'm going to actually show how I do it on my main setup if I don't break anything. I'm a little wary of it. In fact, I'm going to do it in a demo interface. That's actually probably best. So first I have an audio source, or scene I should say. And all it has is my audio input capture. That was just done by, if I add a source here, those audio input capture. You get either ALSA or Pulse Audio. On Linux, you might only get one of these on Windows or Mac. But choose whichever one's appropriate for you. I don't recall which one this one. Nope, it wasn't this. It was the other one, I believe. So it was Pulse Audio because I'm using Pulse Audio on my setup. And then you just, in the properties, select your device. I have a mixer, kind of like a USB mixer right next to me called Moto M2. So that's what I select here, but you would select whatever mic input that you have, that you are using for your voice. But that's only part of the picture. Do you notice how on my demo setup, I'll go back to the fun one here. You notice how in the demo setup, the audio meter here is going to red when I talk? That's because this has not been tuned to how my voice really sounds on a normal level when I do these streams. But we're going to do that now. We're going to go through a series of steps you can take to make that easier. So if we go to the microphone scene again, and then we go to filters, we're going to start adding some filters to make your audio voice even more polished. First one we're going to do is a noise suppression. I believe this is built into all versions of OBS now. And then once you do it, I just give it a name. I'm going to keep it default here. And on Linux, we get 2 choices. You might get more on other platforms, I'm not sure. But we've had good success, myself and others in our Linux streaming group, with the RN Noise plugin. It's using CPU to help eliminate that kind of non-voice background noise that you might have in your stream, like maybe a heater or air conditioner, the hum of your computer if it's cranking up a lot of heat, other things like that. That's a highly recommended filter to have right there. So right off the bat, you should have that one first, because then the rest of them are kind of built on top of it. Now, the next one, and in fact, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit. I need to look back at my notes. And I did for this because it's been a minute since I did this. I want to see. Okay, I didn't write it down, my latest ones, but it's a similar idea. You have other ones at your disposal. In fact, we're going to read some pages online so that I can explain this better to all of you, because I actually ended up bookmarking a bunch of these in my OBS bookmarks. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. Okay, so BigPod's saying we have those 2 noise suppression choices on Windows as well. That's cool. So the first filter we're going to dive into is called Expander. Now, Expander, what does Expander do? So this will kind of, I'm reading this a little bit to refresh your memory in here. It'll help tune down your volume a little bit, but it will make sure to it's another kind of add-on to minimizing the background noise of your stream, which is also where that noise filter removal might do most of it. But you might want this but what this person recommends here is having it right after your noise suppression, because this will catch anything that's left over from that noise suppression. And so what we can do here is you can tune this to be where the threshold should kick in. So let's do that here. Let me go back to OBS. When you have too many windows, it's hard to move the mouse around. Okay, so we're gonna do Expander. We'll just call it Expander. Most people have success around -35 dB, or between that and -40. And then the rest, most keep it pretty straightforward. Yeah, -35 dB. Ratio can be reduced as well. 2:1 is what some people recommend. Yep, so we're gonna keep that there. Attack and release. You can usually keep it at the default. And then I would say keep the output gain at 0. You don't want more noise being added from it. So I think that's good enough. Now, we're still in the red, but that's gonna help with the background noise piece. So we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. So the next one we want to add, we're gonna go back to my bookmarks here, is the compressor. Now, the nice thing about the compressor is it's gonna kind of give your voice a little bit more polished, and making sure that when you say escalate your volume a little bit, maybe you were excited about something, it will avoid that kind of clipping that can happen where your voice kind of sounds distorted a little bit. So we're going to add about we're gonna add this after the expander. We're gonna add that here. Add compressor, and we're gonna limit. Yeah, keep the threshold around where it is. Keep that tach about 10 milliseconds. And again, you can play with this kind of at your leisure. It really depends on your setup. Hold on, I might just keep that at 8 just to see how it goes. Release. They recommend 80 milliseconds, so we'll just start it there. Now we'll just stick that there. And now we're starting to see the audio going into the green and yellow mostly. This is actually what you want. When you go in the red in OBS, that kind of means your voice is probably going to get clipped. So now we have 3 filters here that have now taken care of mostly how that audio is going to sound. So I'm not going to actually show you how bad it sounds before the filter, but this is the steps you would take to tune your microphone in a way that might help your voice stand out better and minimize the background noise and minimize the clipping that can occur depending on your circumstances. So again, everybody's setup is unique, but those are some good resources, and let me start putting those in the chat here, because again, these were very helpful to me alongside what Martin told me a few weeks ago when he had upgraded his microphone to the same one I'm using now. And this website I found after the fact is a great way to explain how these different filters work. So highly recommend check those out as well. Okay, so I think for audio in terms of voice, that's what I want to cover. And please, if you have questions about what I'm showing here, please ask in the chat. I'm here to help you out. I'm just sharing some of the things that have helped me out along the way to make my OBS setup a lot more fun. Okay, so you can see when I go to that camera scene, that countdown timer went back to 4 minutes because I told it to refresh when it became active again. So those are, again, little enhancements that can help you out a lot along the way. Now, this is the part where I could get really, really geeky with some stuff, but let's kind of close the loop on some of these main scenes I have here before I get to some real interesting stuff. So you can see I actually haven't done anything with this demo scene. We're going to build it up because maybe you want to show your coding window or one of your displays on your setup to show your R code, your Python code, or whatever code you're making. Now first, let me see what this programming scene has. This doesn't have anything. Okay, so this is good. This is what we want to start tweaking. So what you could do is there are a couple ways you can bring in a source of something on your desktop into OBS. One method is called window capture. I have some good news and not so good news depending on what you're using. The not so good news is that for some of us on Linux with NVIDIA cards and certain desktop environments, window capture does not work very well, folks. In fact, it just won't find it. In fact, I'm going to show you right now what I mean. Now I have VS Code set up already. Now I'm going to try and find it here. It's in here somewhere. No, oh, that one works. My Stream Deck window works. Well, let's see what happens when I do VS Code. Oh my gosh, it actually works this time. Oh wait, VS Code's the one that works. What doesn't work is probably... where's Firefox? I have too many windows open. Oh, they all work now. Oh, okay. Go figure. Maybe been an update on my system. But this is one way to bring in a program, dedicated program, is just to use a window capture for it. This is very similar to when you're like on a Zoom or a Teams chat or whatever conferencing platform you do for work or whatever, where you can either share your whole screen or you can share a program instead. So it's just like that in OBS with window capture. So I could do this with the Firefox window or the VS Code window. So I'm shocked that it's working now because this usually doesn't work. But that's an option. Now this doesn't look very good right now, but you can resize it later and zoom in and do whatever you like. So if we were here, it looks okay. But if I was in VS Code, I would probably want to do VS. I would probably want to zoom in a little bit. In fact, I'll do that now on the VS Code setup, and we'll see how that looks on the window capture. Zoom in. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to go back to OBS. That looks a little better. So that's not a bad window capture. That's okay. You know, that's good. Now, what you might want to do instead is you might want to capture a secondary display on your streaming setup. What could that be? It might be a second monitor, or in my case, it's a third monitor that actually doesn't exist. But that's another option. The way you do that is if we just go to my demo scene here and imagine we're doing it there. We're going to hide this for now. And then we would do... Oh gosh, what would we do? I need to... Is it video capture? No. Yeah, I think it is. No, that's not it. That's not it. What is that? Ah. Been a while since I did this. I need to look at what we have here. Screen capture, silly me. So screen capture, you could do that. And now we got the inception here because it's going to my main screen here. We could go this one. This is my control panel for looking at my stream health, or this one, which is more inception. This is my third display. But you could do any one of these, and then that could be your kind of demo code development setup. So it's really up to you which one you want to do. But this one here is actually my third monitor. So yeah, we got the inception going on here, but this is a display that's actually made by my video card instead. You want to say hi to everybody? No? No, he's not here. No. He wants the Linux friend that I keep talking about because he wants money from him. That's a long story. Okay. Okay, so we're going to hide that for now. But that's how you can do either your program window, like a dedicated program, or your main desktop. So those are, when you do those kind of things, in fact, if we just go the program scene, and then we can also do a scene where we put in our camera, but we resize it. So what we could do there is just add another scene. And that could be the full camera. And then we're going to resize it. And then we can just move that up, move that down, wherever you like. And now you can have your talking head next to whatever program you're writing. That's easy enough, right? And again, this did not touch my main camera scene. This is still intact. But now my demo scene just has this neatly tucked away. You could use the lower right or the upper part for like a chat window, like what I'm doing in the main feed. Easy to do, and you can spend a lot of time tweaking this to your liking. So lots of cool stuff you can do with nesting scenes. All right. One thing I forgot to mention with the browser sources, especially for those, say, from Stream Elements, if we go back to, say, the timer one just for demonstration, If you know your browser source is going to have audio, make sure you hit the control audio via OBS button. And if it played something when an event occurred in that browser source that you wanted to broadcast to your actual stream, that way you can grab the audio of it, you can change the gain or the volume of it to your liking, and then that way you can have that as part of your broadcast as well. But sometimes I forget to check that and I realize, well, wait, why couldn't anybody hear it? That's why. Always got to be careful of that. Okay. I think we're ready for some geeky stuff. I mean, really geeky stuff. Because I mentioned at the top, I really, really like automation stuff. And this is where a tool like Atom is a part of this picture. But I do have some slightly lower level parts that are a huge part of this picture. What am I talking about? Let me walk you through that. First, hydrate time. All right. We're going to get away from the Phantom OBS setup. We're going to get to our browser for a second. And going to highlight a couple tools here that play, actually about 3 of them that play a huge role here. Let me see if I can find it. I thought I bookmarked them. Okay. This is going to get a little confusing because there are 2 tools with the same name. That's a bit of an unfortunate circumstance that can happen with open source sometimes, but they're both aware of it. First, they're both called OBS-CLI. The first one is maintained by GitHub user Christian Moha High User. Oh gosh, I probably totally butchered that name. I'm sorry. But what this is this is a program written in Go to communicate with OBS from the command line via the WebSocket protocol. We're going to get the WebSocket in a little bit. That's the key driver in how all this works. And if you have this installed on your system, I believe, can we get this on other operating systems? Let me check the releases to see. We can get it on Windows. I don't think we can get it on Mac. Okay, so it's on Windows and Linux. But what this gives you is a way that from the command line, you can interact with OBS directly for certain events. Maybe to start your stream. Maybe start your recording. Or to switch to your different scene. This is where it gets really fun. So, a lot of times we want an easy way, instead of clicking in OBS directly with our mouse, to navigate through our setup depending on what we're trying to show. Maybe we tie with a piece of hardware, maybe we tie with a keyboard shortcut. Or, and what those, I should say, what that button or that keyboard shortcut could trigger is not necessarily something directly in OBS proper, but it can be triggering a program that uses OBS CLI. So I actually do this for many of my events on my Stream Deck, is that they're actually tied to command scripts that wrap things like OBS CLI and stuff. So this one is very performant, very reliable, but it doesn't have quite everything of what I want just yet, but it's getting really close. It's getting really close to having everything we want. They've had some extensions recently. In fact, you can see just in the README, there's a whole lot of content here. First, let me put this in the chat in case you all want to look at this later on. But there are certain things it doesn't have, and for what it doesn't have, you may want to look at the other version of OBS CLI that is written with JavaScript. It's still using the WebSocket protocol, but it's got a kind of JavaScript interface to it on the back end. this actually supports practically every protocol that the OBS WebSockets protocol gives you. The other OBS CLI does not support everything yet, but this does support everything. But the trick is that you've got to put in the request in JSON format a lot of times, or I should say the parameters for that request. That can get a little tricky from the command line. I've gotten around it. I mean, I know how to do it now, but it took some getting used to. So you're going to go a little lower level with JavaScript on this one, but it is also very powerful. So again, another recommended tool. But if you install both of these in your local setup, you're going to have, without manual intervention, two utilities, two binaries that are called OBS CLI. So what you might do is you might download this one after the first one written in Go and just rename it to like OBS-CLI-JS or something like that. That way you can call both of them and just do a different name of them for each, invocation. Now I keep talking about this WebSocket stuff, but let's talk about what that really means here. So we don't have to get into the back end of it per se, but if you look at all these different options here, you can get all sorts of metadata about your OBS setup, and you can make all sorts of requests about your OBS setup by playing media playback, getting sources, muting things, changing volume, changing profiles, recording. There is so much stuff here. It almost makes your head spin. But if you just take what you need, then you can build this into your automation pipeline. So that's what I've been doing lately. And now with that framing in mind, I think I need to add another link here. I haven't linked everything yet. Hold on, please. I meant to have all these done before, but I got busy with other things. Got that one. And then the WebSocket protocol. We can just link to the general docs over here, and I'll have all this in the VOD resources after this. So what I've done is I have taken knowledge from these three paradigms, the two OBS CLI binaries, or programs I should say, that directly deal with OBS WebSockets to build automation in my streaming setup and maintenance. So time to get into VS Code. I have a lot of scripts here, but I'm going to walk through kind of a couple of them, and just some caveats is that these are extremely specific to my setup. So they won't be plug and play for all of yours, but I'll just show you a couple of them to get a general idea of what we can do here. So full credit to inspiring this goes to Martin Wimpress. He is a much better bash scripter than I am. I just know enough to be dangerous. But for what I do know, I'm able to make all this work for what I want to do. So one kind of unique thing I do that is a lot of fun. Let me see if I can find it here. Sorry, I'm looking at all my things here that's a little different, and some of it's not just of OBS either. Okay, this is a cool one here. This is about my camera. So I have a bash script here called obsmovecamera.sh that is going to be invoked every time I hit a button on my Stream Deck to tell me what position to put my little camera that you're looking at now. Like, I want to go to the upper left. There I am. Lower left. Lower right. Upper right. those are literally just 4 buttons on my my Stream Deck, and I'm going to show you the video feed of that shortly. As soon as I get my phone back working again. And I better... You know what? I'll be right back, folks. Hold on. We're back. Had a little situation there. All right. Audio. Okay, so going back to my phone camera for a second. This is what I'm talking about. These 4 buttons here, I have linked to this same bash script, and I'll get to the software that's doing the linking in a little bit. But I have on UR, LR, LL, UL. That's pretty fun. Okay, so let's go back to the source window. Let me word wrap this so we can see what we're talking about here. Okay. So my bash script has 4 parameters: upper right, lower right, upper left, lower left. And first I make sure... Well, actually, I don't really do anything with currency, but let's be that as it may. So if I supply in this script the camera position UR, upper right, I'm using that OBS CLI.js, and I have what's called a source set filter that basically helps me in OBS determine what position to put the camera. And so there are 4 of these filters on that one camera feed, and I show the one that is corresponding to what is supplied at the command line. So this is for upper right. I'm saying the camera upper right filter, enable it. If it's lower right, we enable the lower right. If it's upper left, we enable the upper left. If it's lower left, we enable the lower left. So that, I'm going to check some here real quick to see if I can show you those on the fly here. No, I don't have those on this one. That's a different scene. Sorry for that. I'll have to show how that works on another time, but the idea is that the script is tied to the button press, and then it just automatically moves that camera source upper, lower, right or left. So that's one use of it. I like that a lot. And the other one is when I have these animations that can occur, and these are triggered by either redemptions on Twitch or some other event. So like I have one called Story Time, where it's a fun little redemption in my Twitch rewards, or if you want to hear me tell a story about my dev life or work life or other random topics, it will kick off this script and it will show different, let me word wrap this again. It'll show by the different sources, making them visible in a sequence, and then unhide the audio, which plays the audio of that alert, sleep some more, show more video or images of it, sleep again, and then show some more video or some more scenes, and then sleep for a while, and then hide everything back. So this is all stuff that you can do with the automation scripts, is you can show, hide, trigger audio, all sorts of cool things you can do with automation, and then tie that to whatever you want to use to invoke that command. Some of these can be tied to a service, some of these can be tied to like a button press. It's up to you. So that's been really helpful for me to look at as well. And this is my most basic one, but this shows kind of what I do on my Stream Deck most of the time is I'm switching scenes. So I have a bash script that says, okay, what scene am I moving to? It has to be the name that I put in OBS. And then I just say OBS CLI scene current, and then that argument itself. So that's what powers all these button presses where I go to here, where I go to here, where I go to here. All that was using that same script, just with different scene names as the argument. Just these things alone took me a little bit to get used to, but they saved me so much time with automation and having more fun on this than I ever would have had before. So it's been great for me to try to hook all this together. So yeah, that's the automation piece of it. There's more to it than that, but those are that fundamental technology is what's really fun. And then now, let me go back in my notes to see if there's any other important things I want to highlight here before I go too much further. I've talked about Stream Elements. I've talked about Video Ninja. I've talked about Atom. I can talk about some of the music as well if you all want to hear how I'm doing the music. It's actually all local now. But I'll kind of leave it up to you in the chat if you want to hear about anything specific. Otherwise, I'm about to deep dive into another kind of automation tie-in, but with my actual programming work, which I'm pretty excited about, maybe for some geeky reasons, but it's been a lot of fun to figure that piece out. So I'll kind of go there, but if you want to hear about other things, let me know and I'll be glad to talk about that. So for VS Code, it's going to be in VS Code again. So we're going to go back there. Let's close this project. Or close the folder, I should say. Hi, Jackie. Glad you can make it. Oh, welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing well. We've been talking a lot of OBS stuff today. I'm about to show my latest hack with OBS and R, actually. So you came in at a great time for that. But certainly happy holidays, all that fun stuff that time of year. Okay, where did I use this last? Okay, I think I did this in the Shiny Learning project, but I'm going to I'll hop through a few things. Okay, well, let's just do this one first. Our devs project. Some of you saw a preview of this in Discord. If you're not on our Discord, I'm going to remind you all of where that is. Let me just put that in the chat. This is the place where we all, if you're into data science streaming and streaming in general with R, Julia, Python, whatever works, come join our Discord. We're a friendly bunch and we've gotten some new arrivals recently and we're looking forward to a lot of great fun in 2022 for sharing our knowledge, learning together, Tidy Tuesday analyses, me just breaking everything related to Shiny most of the time. There's all sorts of fun stuff here. Okay, so I brought up R in a tutorial that's supposed to be focusing on OBS. Well, let's find out why. So I have an analysis I'll do here with a data set called Orange. What's in this? It looks like it's a data set about oranges, one of my favorite fruit. From orange trees, what's their age and what's the circumference? I'm guessing that's the average circumference of each orange, who knows? And let's say I want to do some analysis.
What happened? going? No, it ain't no mystery.
Uh-oh. What was that? Well, first, I see a problem here. That was supposed to fire something else, but, we're gonna take care of that. Hold on, folks. Hold on. We got a little Docker shenanigans here. We're gonna relaunch that. You want to see what I'm doing? I'll show you here. So there's even Docker involved in this setup, so I've really gone over the top of this. Okay, we're gonna relaunch this. Okay, this should play better. Let's see. I'll run that again.
Oh, this is turning out to be a total waste of time.
So poor Mo here does not like what I did for that error here. How in the world did that work, right? Yeah. Well, you don't believe me? Watch this.
Wait a minute.
Yes, Jackie, you came at the right time. That's what I wanted to talk about. So, VS Code. Is it VS Code only? Not quite, but we're going to get to this. So, this could work in VS Code or any R session if you tie with certain bits that I've connected here. Where now, at each error, because I make a lot of errors in my R programming, we're going to have fun with it this time instead of me just banging my head against the desk figuring out what the heck happened. So, this got inspiration from a couple projects in the community, one related to R and one related to OBS itself. But let's look at my R profile file here. So let's ignore the VS Code stuff. Let's go over here. I have a function called play sound. Very simple function when you look at it. We get a sample of audio files, and then we're simply gonna, we'll get to the custom sync stuff in a little bit, but I basically have a utility on this container called Pulse Audio Play that plays a sound on Linux from the command line. So it's as if you had an MP3 player on your desktop and you just hit the play button. That's basically what this is doing from a command line. And so that plays it. So when you hear the audio, that's what this was right here. But then the other part is, how did you see that fancy little graphic at the top? You see a curl request of all things? This is a Plumber API. A Plumber API. Plumber, for those who aren't aware, is the R package that help you convert an R script into a web compliant API. They could call from R or anything else, or in this case, just a call to the curl utility from the Linux command line. So I feed into that the audio file name, and I don't care about the output. And then I make sure that whenever I have an error in my R programming, I play the sound. So that the function plays sound, I should say. So yeah, well, the part that may not be so clever is I'm ashamed to say how long it took me to build all this, but it was a good learning opportunity. I just always rationalize it like that. So the project that makes all this work are a couple of them. So we're gonna close this one up, and I'm gonna go to the one that actually serves the API itself. Yeah, build it once, right? Yep. We're gonna close this one up, and then we're gonna look at the project where I actually put all this together. Now, actually, will this work the way I intend? I need to check something for a second. I may have to show you the scripts in a different way because I changed my setup on this immensely before. So what I'm talking about, I'm going to bring this over here. Yeah, this is not in... Oh, actually, I may have had it. Let me look when I did the timestamp on this? No, okay, this is not through VS Code. So we're gonna look at these files in a different interface. Well, actually, we can just open the folder. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Yeah, I think we can just open the folder. Yeah. We're gonna look at it like this. So we have two things here. Let's look at the Plumber API first. So Plumber is meant to be very straightforward to host APIs in R, and all I do here is that I take the file name that was supplied as a call, and I detect, in fact, I'm kind of spoiling with surprise here, I figured out why not. These are the different types of sound alerts I have for when I have errors. These are simply MP3 files or WAV files, technically the WAV files. I map the beginning of their file names to the scene name in OBS. So it's basically kind of like a recoding almost with dplyr case when. And then with that knowledge in hand, like what's the source name? It's going to be one of these. I actually go to another web service on another part of the Docker container. All right, Big Pot, I'm glad you have fun with your coding today. If you stream it, let me know. Always happy to tune in. I make a call to another web service called OBS WebSocket HTTP, which is using that same WebSocket stuff I talked about 20 minutes ago in a Python container. And I supply to that basically kind of like JSON-like parameters to say, okay, for my animation scene called R code errors, for the source name, the same as one of these up here, make it visible. So first it unhides that image, and then it shows the little funny graph, the image I had on the right where it said error. That's another scene from another source from a different scene. I show that. That's where visible equal true. I sleep for a few seconds, and then I hide it. This is all just for the images. So then I'd set those as false. And I set that as false for the code errors. And that's it. So this Plumber API is just showing an image basically, but it's doing it through OBS via this OBS WebSocket HTTP. That one I can't explain as well because it's just it's a Python utility. But I'll put a link to it if you want to look at it. But that's how I made a suite of Docker containers, in this case 2 of them. One with the Plumber API and one with the WebSocket Python service, so that now they both can talk to each other. That was the idea, is I had the Plumber API send its thing to this web service and then just handle it from there, so that the whole point I went this in depth into it was that I wanted the containers of my R development that I want to hook this little fun project with. In fact, I'm going to close the folder and go back to that. Go back to our dev projects. The only thing I wanted to have to worry about in these development containers is basically copy and pasting this play sound function and remapping the error option, and that's it. I wanted nothing else I have to touch in these containers. Let the other container handle all the logistics, the Plumber API hosting, the Python WebSocket stuff. This is just meant to be fun. That's it, no more, no less. So that makes it so I can backport this little snippet here to all my other development containers, and in that way we can all do the same thing. But the good news is that whatever you're using for your development and your streams, you technically don't need to do a container for your like your R development to make all this work. You just need to have the Plumber API and that Python WebSocket service running somewhere. And then you're all set. You are all set after that. Now I do notice something going on here. Oh, there it is. Okay, never mind. So that was hugely geeky. It did take me a good week to build all this, or evenings, but I wanted to do something unique, and this is by far my most unique thing I've ever done in my stream, is actually have fun with my errors. So that was fun to do. A lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. So I think the key part here is that you have all this tech available to you to make your stream unique. Put your personality into it. I have definitely gotten inspiration from others, both in our streamer group and our Linux streaming group, on how I make my stream more, more fun, more powerful. And certainly my geek level on this has gone through the roof, so to speak. But I'm trying to tie all this together to make it more entertaining for not only the audience, but also, frankly, for me. Because if I don't have fun doing it, there's no way I'm going to do this regularly. So, so this was fun to get working. It took a little bit, but it's definitely there. So let me catch up on chat here. Big Pod is so ambitious in what he's working on. So Big Pod's saying, I'm currently writing a system that will allow me to deploy my own dev environment whenever I need a new one. In a container, of course, no matter what kind of environment it is. Well, that's kind of, that's kind of what I'm doing with my dev environment these days. And what I mean by that is all my R projects are actually bootstrapped as containers. Some of you have seen this before, so bear with me if you have, but every project I do starts with this repository right here, where now in VS Code I've got the whole Docker stuff set up. So it's got my R installation, my packages, the Linux utilities that I need to make all this work. And in fact, that's a good thing to show. What did I have to add to make all that sound stuff work? Oh, it's not in this one. It's in a different branch. Hold on. That is in my stream branch. That is this stuff right here. This code right here is all about audio utilities. So I got all this from a blog post combined with some trial and error so that I could play the sounds on Linux. And then in my dev container file, I had the Big Pod. This, if you're still watching, this reminds me when you did the stream with Martin on the Docker containers for a graphical interface, like with Firefox. But for the sound side of it, I had to do this kind of stuff with the Pulse audio server and mount it as an environment variable. In fact, right here I had to mount the Pulse audio native runtime or something like that. I got this from a blog post. That's the only way this all could work, is that the container had to mount all of this. So if you don't do a development container, you don't have to worry about any of this. But since I do, it was a little crazy. So yeah, that took a lot of work. That took a lot of work to figure that piece out, but it was worth it. It was worth it. I would say, yeah, so yeah, Big Pod doesn't just code in one language, you code in 10 of them. Good grief. I wish I had that brain power to do all that. Now, the last thing I'll leave with before we kind of close up here is the software that's tying my Stream Deck to these events or these scripts that I talked about. Let me show you those. Where are they? Now, if you're on Windows or Mac, you can get from Elgato directly the Stream Deck utilities. I think it's like a binary program, and you can just install that and you can tie that to your Stream Deck and you're done. Well, that's not on Linux, so for all the Linux users out there, we've been through a couple of these iterations, but the one that we've started settling on now that's been really working well is called Unix Stream Deck. This is actually backed in Go. We heard about Go from that other OBS CLI program. They do this also for Linux as well. So they have a backend service called Stream Deck D. Very easy to install. If you're interested, we can share that afterwards. And then you can have on top of this, in fact, you can see this is where you get low level. You can have a command, a key binding, open a URL, switching a page, things like that. And then to put a front end to this, you want Stream Deck UI. This is also written in Go. And this will give you a nice program looking like this. In fact, I'll show you what mine looks like. Where is it? Got so many windows open here. This is what mine looks like right here. So, what you saw on the phone camera when I was showing you the hardware setup, it looks basically just like this. Only this is the virtual view. So each of these are buttons that trigger either a command line script or something in OBS directly, or something in my music playing. So this button right here, it won't do anything if I click on it in this interface, but it runs a bash script called OBS Start Stream. I tell it what service, either Twitch or YouTube, and what collection, I should say starting collection. And in this case, since it wasn't Shiny specific, I did our podcast, but I have another one called Shiny Dev Series, so it'll do that nice little trailer of Shiny apps in the intro screen. So that's what this button's tied with. This one's tied to ending the stream. This one's starting on YouTube specifically. And then these are the ones that switch to different scenes. So this will, if I hit this now, it'll take me to the welcome, hello, hello. Then go back here. This will take me to you and me in the chat. This will take me to source only, and this will take me to the source or development window with chat. This will take me to the phone camera. You get the idea, right? Is that all of these are simply switching scenes here. So again, the Elgato Stream Deck program would have this same kind of thing ready for you. We just had to use this Stream Deck Unix to get it on the Linux side of things. I also have it tied to my music software. So like if I want to toggle playback using my local playback called MPD, there's a program called MPC, Music Player Control or whatever. I can hit pause and it paused, hit play again, we're back. I can even skip to a new song like this. And there we go. I can show what the song actually is. And there it is. It doesn't look very good here as I didn't do a background on it, but you get the idea. Is all this is tied in front of me so that I can do all this fun stuff. I can even show our charity alert. We're at $120 of our 500 gold. So all these things are tied to that Stream Deck. Makes my life a lot easier, but you could do a similar thing with keyboard shortcuts or other programs you might build yourself. But for me, I just use whatever people build most of the time, and it works very well for me. So that's what Stream Deck Unix gives you, both the backend service and the front end GUI. They can tie all this with together. So yeah, we are running up at 4 o'clock Eastern. I need to do a quick check on my other screen if we have others that are on the docket for a schedule here. I know we had a cancellation here and there. Let me go back on my notes here. Sorry, bear with me a second. I'll go to the up-to-date schedule. We've had some change over here. We're gonna look at it together, I guess. Okay, so it looks like we might have a gap in time for a bit, but coming up at about 8 o'clock Eastern, Tan from our streamer group is going to be doing some maybe having a code looking at or catching up, and then we'll have Emran later on in the evening to talk about, looks like an analysis of Michael Bublé's song. Oh, that looks fun. And then Daniel will be on later tonight to talk about some more Twitch stuff, and looks like all sorts of things going on here. So that's for those of you on the other time zones. You'll definitely want to tune into that, or if you're up late, have fun with that. Okay, I guess we can kind of keep it open-ended here. If you have questions about the OBS stuff, I can spend the next few minutes talking about that while I have some time. And first, hello, Jenna. Welcome to the stream. If you ever had a question about OBS, this is your time to ask. That's what I've been focusing on today, with going over my setup and having fun geeking out on some of the automation stuff I've been doing. And for those that joined later, you want to know if you want to get involved with the Project Hope service that we've been working with. There's more info in the chat. Okay, so this is good, Jenna. I may okay, well, perfect. You came at the right time. So you've been using Twitch Studio. I have absolutely no knowledge of what Twitch Studio looks like. Maybe we just look at it together. And for my, let me just see what this looks like. I've heard some people mention it. Okay, so, oh, I see. So I can see it's got some similarities to OBS. It's got your scenes, audio mixer. Okay. Yeah, you got your chat in here, your activity in here. Yeah, okay, I got it. Okay, so for the transition, what I'm curious about, I'm just going to do some quick Googling here. I'm going to see if we can import Twitch Studio settings into OBS. We probably can't. I know you can import from Streamlabs OBS into OBS proper. We may not be able to import. Yeah, maybe use OBS in the back end. Oh, that's just Twitch Studio. That's not quite the same. Okay, well, I'll give you my 2 cents just looking at this. I think the first step is to start small and try to replicate your scenes that you have. What I did in the demo that I was looking at earlier, let me pull it back up here. I would start small with like your basic camera feeds, whether they're like a full one like this, or if you only have one that's like looking at like programming windows like this one here. Start to build those up first. Just kind of get used to the idea of adding scenes and then adding sources within that. But you might want to watch a VOD of this after the fact, because I talk about why I do this kind of organization of scenes, because if you set that up right the first time, when I say right, that's kind of a strong choice of words. When you set that up in a, you might say a logical way in the beginning, it saves you a ton of rework afterwards. So like having a scene dedicated to your full camera, where the source is only your video capture. In my case, it's a camera right above my monitor. But then you can put that into other scenes where you might augment that with other things like alerts, music, your microphone, if that's a separate scene, and stuff like that. So getting your scene set up in the simple way first is key to making this happen. If you're trying to do too much at once, it goes you'll go crazy. You probably will. So getting that set up right, and then I'd say that's the first step, and trying to figure out what other online services you use besides Twitch. If you don't use anything besides Twitch, you'll probably be almost done at that point. But if you use other things like Streamlabs or others to bring in certain alerts into your stream, I would recommend checking out Stream Elements if you want to replace any of those existing ones. It's got most of the features that come with the other services like chat commands or audio alerts or overlays and chat bots, all that stuff. I would recommend checking that out as well. And yeah, that's about kind of my basic advice. But once you get into it, if you have questions, obviously you can drop me a line in the Discord anytime. But that's the good news, Jen, is that most of everything I've shown today, OBS itself, Stream Elements, and some of the geekier plugins I talked about are all completely free. I think most people can get by with just OBS and Stream Elements. And that's literally gets them 100% of the way there. It's up to you if you want to augment that with more paid things to like have bigger assets, or you might say more glitzy assets of like overlays and alerts and widgets and stuff like that. But Stream Elements itself is completely free. So that's why I recommend that to get started with. If you want to bring that kind of content into your stream. And then OBS itself will always be free. It's open source, and it's like I said, the de facto standard with just configuring the stream to the way you see fit. The configuration does get a little crazy, I do admit, especially when you're new to it. But just take it one bit at a time. Start practicing small with some test scenes. And one other pro tip I have, if you're like debugging like not just your OBS setup, but what it looks like when you stream without actually announcing that you're streaming, is I do actually recommend getting a YouTube account so that you could do what's called an unlisted live stream. And in that way, you could have a VOD afterwards that only you know about. And you could quickly see if something like really went haywire on the actual stream itself without feeling like, oh no, I just made this public and people saw me do all this. So that was really helpful to me when I was starting out with this, because I actually started on YouTube and then I came to Twitch later on. But I used the unlisted stream feature in YouTube so that I could debug all this without feeling like I was going to embarrass myself to the whole rest of the world. So, and that's completely free as well. I mean, obviously Google accounts are free, but there's no cost to streaming on YouTube at all. That's only if you want to get into like the red stuff or get into their advertising stuff. That's a whole different story, which I don't even bother with. So that would be a great way to try stuff out. And then obviously OBS can stream to Twitch, YouTube, and other services as well. You can just set all that in the streaming settings. So yeah, I think just make it fun, make it unique, and have fun with the personalization you can make in this. So like, I think what I do in my streams, hold on, let me go back here. I mean, when I do development stuff, I try to keep the development window like the front focus, but having the browser source for the chat window, the ability to just move this little camera around everywhere. I mean, those are all just quality of life things that help me have fun with what I'm doing here. So just make it fun. And if you do find yourself going down rabbit holes and you're stuck, don't listen to past me where I try to figure out all this stuff on my own. Reach out to people like me and others on our Discord. We're happy to help out. I know Tan has a lot of knowledge of OBS as well. Daniel does as well. And I get my knowledge from a lot of these really fun Linux streamers out there that have taught me everything I know. And so I'm always trying to pass the knowledge over. So always reach out. It's a big program, but you can do so much with it. It's mind-boggling sometimes. All right. So I think I've covered a lot of things I wanted to cover. I guess one meta tip that you might want to think about is as you're putting all this stuff together, document everything. Even if it's like the most minor detail, that documentation has literally saved my behind on so many ways. And so it's up to you what note kind of service or what way you take notes in. But having that as a place you can refer to of like, okay, this is the command I did to do this, or here's what I'm doing these scenes for, or here's what someone else said, and then here I'm going to try later on. Write that stuff down. You cannot have too many notes when you're setting all this stuff up the first time, no matter how minor it appears to be. So I have a set of markdown notes of so many things in OBS for both my live stream stuff and also my interviews for the Shining Developer Series, that I look at them every time I start an interview and make sure I got all the stuff checked, got all my pre-checks in order, got my audio set up, and I got my show notes prepped. You definitely want all that to make your life easier. So yeah, I think that is probably what I wanted to cover. I'll unwind here a little bit and make sure I pass all the great links to all of you in the chat, and I'll have like I said, the VOD after this. We'll have it in YouTube. We'll have all the links I've mentioned as well. There's just all sorts of fun stuff you can do with all of this. I guess one miscellaneous thing with the audio stuff is make sure that whatever music service you're playing, make sure it's not copyrighted, because those obviously can be the source of a lot of takedowns online if you post the VOD afterwards. I'm using music that's from Creative Commons that I even asked the permission of the authors to play on my streams or podcasts, and they're like, yeah, sure, go for it. So always make sure you got that in clearance. But I play all my music locally now, so it's all coming from my computer that I downloaded from this great website called ocremix.org. In fact, I'll show that here. I'll close out here. They have these really excellent video game music remix services or remix albums. So if you played games like I did in the past, they have so many albums of all these different genres. It's a whole lot here. So definitely check out ocremix.org if you like that sort of thing. And what I use, what I still use from time to time to actually have the streaming version of this is rainwave.cc, and in particular the OC Remix channel. And that way you can just bring this in as a browser source in OBS and just play this as a separate tab. And it's, yeah, it'll just be as a source, and then you can just capture that yourself. Yeah, Pretzel Rocks, that's a great one too. So obviously music, that you could use any of this in your OBS setup. The key is just to bring it in as a browser source if it's a streaming service, or bring it in via Spotify, whatever you're using to play it, and then you can just have that play in your stream. All right, let me go back to my webpage here, make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, the VOD will talk about some of these other services I mentioned that are also free, like featured chat, the Stream Deck platforms. Yeah, there's all sorts of great things you can do for your streaming setup. So okay, well, that was a lot of information today. We've gone about 2 hours now. I probably have to get out of here, but to recap, OBS is whatever you make it to be. You can make it as simple as you like, or as oh, okay, I do want to address that. Okay, so let me use my fancy setups here. So Jenna's asking, can you avoid the loop of death with OBS if you accidentally open a tab with your Twitch? Yes, and I'll show you the best way to get a handle on that. Let me go back to our source chat. There we go. When you bring in what I'll call desktop audio, which may be what happens when you get, like, say, a Twitch browser source, and hold on a second, I got my mouse here. The key is getting control of your audio properties. So whatever scene you have that's bringing in that audio, you want to right click in here and select Advanced Audio Properties. Now, if you don't want to hear it yourself when you're on that Twitch tab, whatever your audio source is, you want to make sure you select either monitor off or monitor only mute output. But if you want to hear it yourself as well as your audience hear it, you want monitor and output. So these are the three options here. Monitor off will be you don't hear it at all, but the streamer, the audience will hear it. Monitor only mute output will only let you see the levels of it, but nobody will hear it. And monitor and output, actually no, I may have it backwards. Monitor off, maybe nobody hears it. Monitor only mute output means that your audience will hear it, but you will not hear it. Monitor and output means both your audience and you hear it via whatever headphones or audio output device you're hearing. So that may be one approach. And the other method, of course, is that in your browser tab, if you get on Twitch, I believe most modern browsers let you mute tabs individually. So you want to make sure you have that muted as well if you're concerned about that being broadcast to your audience when you're on it. So the advanced audio properties, again, and when you have an audio source in OBS, right click in that kind of mixer area and go to advanced audio properties, and that's where you get to have these little toggles right here. So definitely check that out if you had that happen before. Believe me, I have too, when I was starting to get used to OBS the first time. Yeah, that was an excellent question. All right. Well, I think that will do it for me. But again, I'm hoping to make dedicated like tutorial videos out of this. I was kind of hoping today might be one of those, but I went all over the place, so it probably won't be able to be clipped very well. I'll just have the VOD out there and y'all can rewatch whatever you think was the best tips out there. But certainly let me know if you want to hear more about it. I have lots more I can tell, and I'm still learning about this stuff every day. So no, never a shortage of how much you can do with this powerful software. So if you want to get a hold of me, you're seeing all that stuff scroll below. Shiny Developer Series is where I post most of my video content. Also, the Our Weekly Highlights podcast. We're on a little break until next year, but we'll be back the first week of January with new episodes on that, with all the latest community developments in the R community. And I'm also on the streamer Discord that we've linked to a little bit. I'll put the link in there one more time if anybody is still watching. There you go. But yeah, definitely have a great rest of your day. And again, the recap, we're all trying to help out with Project Hope today. So that's where you can find all the information at that link I just put in the chat there if you'd like to make a donation. We are at 120 and we have a goal of 500 for the rest of the day, so I bet we can get there. Definitely don't feel obliged to donate if you don't have the means. Just showing up and showing your support is great with us too. So I'm gonna do a quick check on my side here, see if anybody I know is online. I'm not really seeing any of my streamer friends on right now, so I'll probably call it here. But again, tune in later tonight. In fact, I'm gonna go back to the schedule here. Hold on, I'm gonna do some minor OBS debugging here. Not that window. I should have a better way of doing this. Okay. We have, let's see, I'm ending right now at about 4. So, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 hours from now, which would be about 11 tonight or so. Tan will be back on looking at more Advent of Code development, and then Daniel will also be on with at night to talk about some cool stuff as well. So, all right, well, I'm gonna get out of here, and hope you all have a great rest of your day, and have a great rest of your break if you're on break, and a happy new year if I don't talk to you before the new year. So take care. Hope you enjoyed learning about my OBS setup, and have fun and stay safe, and like I said, enjoy the rest of your time. Bye everybody.